Vast stretches of America are so depressed that they look like something out of a horror movie, Michael Snyder reports. The wealthy are doing just fine at the moment, but they don't seem to understand that much of the country is deeply hurting right now. 59% of Americans believe that the U.S. economy is currently experiencing a recession, and that's because most of them are personally experiencing economic pain. Literally just about everything is substantially more expensive in 2024. More major layoffs are being announced with each passing day, and thousands of businesses are going bankrupt. We have not seen a tsunami of economic suffering like this in a long time. And if you live in a wealthy area in a good part of the country, you may wonder what all of the fuss is about. If you and everyone around you is still doing well, life may still seem quite good. But the truth is that there are vast stretches of this country that are so depressed that they literally look like something out of a horror movie. There are many communities that are so plagued by poverty, drugs, homelessness, violence, and theft that it seems like there's no possible way that things could ever turn around. A man named Drew Binsky recently visited one of the poorest parts of West Virginia. He discovered that most people there are living in poverty. Most of the residents live below the poverty line, and life expectancy is well below the national average. Many families rely on government assistance just to get by, and there's limited access to health care. Today, tens of millions of Americans are heavily dependent on the checks that they get from the government each month. In areas where most people have lost hope of ever finding a better life, drug addiction often runs rampant, and that's precisely what Binsky witnessed. He also notes that crystal meth and fentanyl addictions run wild in the state, while many people are living so isolated they have their own dialect. The content creator starts his journey in Bluefield, and as he wanders through the once prosperous manufacturing city, he says it feels like he stepped into a forgotten world. He continues, empty streets and closed shops stretch as far as the eye can see. It's like life has just stopped. And this is where the entire country is heading. Just a few days ago, I wrote about the retail apocalypse that's rapidly spreading across America. Thousands upon thousands of stores are closing, and most of those abandoned stores will not be filled anytime soon. But at least they will make convenient locations for drug addicts to gather. And according to one woman in Binsky interviewed, 30% of the people in her community are into these types of drugs. They're illegal drugs. One woman in the store tells the camera crew we're the poorest county in the United States, or we were. About 30% of our community are dopers, druggies, more than 30%, she said. The same conditions being repeated in rural community after rural community over all of America. And sadly, the standard of living in our rural communities is going to continue to go down because of the cost of living just keeps going up. The cost of frozen non-carbonated juices and drinks has risen 19.2% from July 2023, the most of any grocery item. Eggs, meanwhile, have increased by 19.1% in price, and frankfurters are now 9.7% more expensive. The cost of bacon, beef roasts, pork chops, and butter have also risen notably in the last year. In terms of non-food items, car insurance is the biggest riser in the last year, with an 18.6% price hike. We have already reached a stage where a large portion of the population cannot even afford the basics, and as I shared yesterday, I was absolutely shocked to learn that 39% of Americans have been forced to skip meals so that they will have enough money to make their housing payments. 39% of Americans say they skip meals and make housing payments per Clever Real Estate survey, and among millennials, that figure rose to 44%. Among baby boomers, it's 20%. So it's no wonder why so many voters are so deeply frustrated with the current state of the economy. This is our country now, and the outlook for the future is not positive at all. In fact, it appears that very alarming changes are starting to happen in the employment market as large companies lay off large numbers of workers. Another domino falls for a recession as job creation turns negative for small businesses, which employ nearly half of all Americans. In the past year, payrolls for companies with under 50 employees plunged by nearly 100,000, while job trends were flat for mid-sized businesses up to 500 employees. The only bright spot was big businesses, which might be changing. Even recent layoffs announcements including 2,500 at Chrysler, 4,000 at Cisco, 12,000 at Dell, and 15,000 at Intel. Paramount and the left-wing Axios both cut 10% to 15% of their workforce. 20 years ago, most American families were clearly thriving. Today, most American families are clearly struggling. This change occurred so gradually that most people didn't even realize what was happening. The gap between the wealthy and the rest of us is now larger than ever, and our major cities are teeming with millions of highly desperate people. And this story is not going to end well, but most of you already knew that. When people feel like they have nothing left to lose, it does not take much to push them over the edge. Unfortunately, it appears that the next few months represent a major tipping point, and it won't be too long before all of the frustration that has been building up in this country starts to boil over. This is by Michael Snyder on End of the Economic Collapse blog. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. This is by Michael Snyder. About the author, Michael Snyder's extremely controversial new book entitled Chaos is available in paperback and for Kindle on Amazon. He's also written 7 other books that are available on Amazon, including End Times, 7-Year Apocalypse, Lost Prophecies of the Future of America, The Beginning of the End, and Living a Life That Really Matters. When you purchase any of Michael's books, you help to support the work he's doing. You can also get his articles by email as soon as he publishes them by subscribing to his Substack newsletter. Michael has published thousands of articles on the Economic Collapse blog, End of the American Dream, and The Most Important News, and he always freely and happily allows others to republish those articles on their own websites. These are such troubled times and people need hope. John 3:16 tells us about the hope that God has given us through Jesus Christ. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. If you have not already done so, we strongly urge you to invite Jesus Christ to be your Lord and Savior today. Finally, support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.